Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? She cries the whole day long. I'll do the cooking, honey, I'll pay the rent. I know I've done you wrong. 'Member that rainy eve that I drove you out with nothing but a fine-tooth comb? I know I'm to blame. Well, ain't that a shame? Bill Bailey, won't you please come home? Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? She cries the whole day long. I'll do the cooking, honey, I'll pay the rent. I know I've done you wrong. Hey, Bob, 'member the rainy eve that I drove you out with nothing but a fine-tooth comb? I know I'm to blame, but ain't that a shame? Bill Bailey, won't you please come home? Well, Bill Bailey, I don't know. Someone suggested that song. I thought I'd take a look at it. I took a look at it, and now, well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have taken a look at it. Maybe I should have taken a longer look at it. Maybe I shouldn't have looked at it. Maybe I should have listened to it. Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you? Who the hell is Bill Bailey? I looked it up. I didn't know who Bill Bailey was. I thought there was some story behind it. There is a story behind it. Does anyone know the story behind Bill Bailey? Won't you please come home? I'm going to tell it to you. First of all, the song was written in 1902. Big hit, big hit, big hit. And it's appeared in all sorts of different places and all sorts of different formats and forms, and different people have recorded it. Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? You say you knew Bill Bailey, Blue Lady? Nah. Although you might have known Bill Bailey's daughter. So the actual daughter, who's referred to in the song, she cries the whole day long. That's a baby. The baby lived apparently to 102. The baby in that song lived to 102 and died in the 1970s. So you might have met Bill Bailey's daughter. Bill Bailey himself, well, the guy who wrote the song, he died of cirrhosis at the age of 35. So he didn't live that long. Here, I'm going to tell you the little story about Bill Bailey. Won't you please come home? Okay, first of all, let me just mention this. I'm Ethan Hirschenfeld. You see that name right there? That is I. I am he. That's me. I'm him. Ba 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 da 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 da. 1902. Okay. Popular song published in 1902. It's commonly simply referred to as Bill Bailey, even though the title is Bill Bailey, Won't You Please Come Home? Not to be confused with Baby, Won't You Please Come Home? So, words and music by Huey Cannon, an American songwriter and pianist, and published by blah, blah, blah. It's still a standard in Dixieland and traditional jazz bands. Simple 32 chord sequence of its chorus also underpins many other tunes played by jazz bands. Okay, here's the origin. Cannon, what was his name? Huey Cannon. Cannon wrote the song in 1902 when he was working as a bar pianist at Conrad Diedrich's Saloon in Jackson, Michigan. So he's working as a bar pianist in Jackson, Michigan. Willard Bill Bailey, also a jazz musician, was a regular customer and a friend of Cannon, the bar pianist. And one night, Willard Bill Bailey told Cannon about his marriage to Sarah, who was born Sarah Zegrist. So Cannon, the bar pianist, hears the story about Bill Bailey's marriage to his wife. And Cannon, quote, was inspired to rattle off a ditty about Bailey's irregular hours. Bailey thought the song was a scream, and he brought home a dashed-off copy of the song to show Sarah, his wife. Sarah couldn't see the humor, but accepted without comment the picture it drew of her as a wife. Cannon sold all rights to the song to a New York publisher. He died from cirrhosis at age 35. Willard And Sarah, okay, so the guy who wrote the song died at 35 cirrhosis. Willard, the Bill Bailey, Willard and Sarah later divorced. He moved to Los Angeles with their daughter Frances. He died in 1954, and Sarah died in 1976 at about the age of 102. There it is. Here are some of the places it's been sung. It was first sung and played at the piano in 1902 by Arthur Collins. I knew an Arthur Collins, no relation. In 1953, that's half a century later, the song was featured in the film Meet Me at the Fair, directed by Douglas Sirk. Meet Me at the Fair. I think that's a song I know. In 1960, Bobby Darin recorded the song, and it went to number 19 on the Hot 100, and number 13 in Canada, and number 34 in the UK. Alan Sherman recorded a parody of this song. Alan Sherman, who did Hello Mutta, Hello Fada. I think that's the guy. So Alan Sherman did a parody of this song on his 1963 album, My Son the Celebrity. And the song was called Won't You Come Home, Disraeli. The Simpsons, the Smurfs, it appears all over the place. Okay, this is a group I don't know about, but there was a duet called Sandler and Young. Do people know Sandler and Young from the 60s? They were a duet, and they recorded a 20-minute medley where Bill Bailey is adapted into various styles, including the Nashville sound, Italian opera, Bach, and Israeli music with Jewish jokes. And finally, Wodehouse, P.G. Wodehouse, 1906 novel, Love Among the Chickens. The narrator, feeling sorry for himself, blames his problems on his historical version of womanhood. Oh, woman, woman, at the bottom of everything, history is full of tragedies caused by the lethal sex. Who lost Mark Antony, the world, a woman? Who let Samson in so atrociously, woman again? Why did Bill Bailey leave home? Once more because of a woman. So there's Wodehouse, including Bill Bailey in his list of historical figures or fictitious figures wronged or suffering at the hands of a woman. Anyhow, there's the story. Bill Bailey. Bill Bailey, won't you please come home? Familiar tune, I have to say, but I'm not really familiar with the song, as you could hear. So my apologies to the ghost of Huey Cannon for my rendition. And I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. About 20 minutes ago, I took half of a Benadryl and half of one other thing. Claritin? I don't know. Mixing drugs. That's the allergy medicine speedball. It's a mix of Benadryl and Claritin. It's the hay fever speedball. Thank you for the blessings. Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? Ba ba da 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 da. Yes, yes. The answer to that question that was posed was yes. A resounding yes. Wah, 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 da, 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 da. Oh, I don't know what happened. Oh, a mystery injury. My left wrist. So we had a great time at puppy school this morning. Hildy was a champion. She was a superstar. She did very well. I'll tell you what we learned at puppy school today. We learned the left-hand turn. Who knew? Well, there's a difference between a left-hand turn and a right-hand turn. When you're walking your dog, so your dog's to your left. So a right-hand turn, you're sort of turning away from your dog, so your dog naturally follows. A left-hand turn, you're turning into your dog. So it's a little more complicated to get the dog to go with you. So we worked on that, of course, using treats. So that was cool. I might have mentioned the name of this dog trainer. He's just great. His name is Paul Chiano. Wanted to give him some props. Very sensitive to the dogs and how they're all different and they all learn differently and they behave differently, and also sensitive to the humans who, as we know, he says one thing he says that I like. He has a phrase. He says, emotion travels down the leash. Just a nice way of saying that the dog can feel what you're feeling, which I absolutely believe is true. Good question, Dad. Thank you for the question. Do you get the treats? Well, I buy the treats, if that's what you mean. Do I get them? Yes, I buy them. Do I get to eat them? You know what? I could if I wanted, but they're definitely not vegan, so I do not partake of them. In fact, one thing that Paul, the dog trainer, the teacher, said today was that because there was one dog who was he just wasn't that interested in the treats, which makes it quite hard. You can imagine if the method is to motivate and teach and reinforce behavior using treats, if the dog isn't that turned on by the treat, that makes the whole thing a hell of a lot more difficult. What he said was he recommended trying like an extra special treat, a novel treat, he said. And he said in his experience, liverwurst, he said, this is quoting him, he said, I think it's disgusting, but dogs love it. So they love liverwurst. The only other creature that I know that loves liverwurst was Vinnie Barbarino in Welcome Back, Kotter. If anyone else was a fan of that sitcom with Gabe Kaplan in the mid-70s, Vinnie Barbarino, played by John Travolta, he liked liverwurst. He would bring a liverwurst sandwich to school. Anyhow, oh, babies love it? Ugh, well, so disgusting, the whole idea. Although I have to say, it's a problem also of language, because the word Wurst, of course, just means sausage. So liverwurst just means liver sausage. It's disgusting, yeah, but the word in English is especially disgusting because we pronounce it like it's got the word worst in it. So it's just liver sausage. Da 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 ba da 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 ba da da ba ba da 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 da. It's a happy tune. It's a happy tune about a woman who's been abandoned at home. That's what it sounds like. The Bill Bailey I knew owned a cottage with my Uncle Vito in Guilford, Connecticut. Well, that's nice. Oh, there it is. Bob is quoting Vinnie Barbarino. Up your nose with the rubber hose. I forgot about that. And we had T-shirts in the 70s that would, oh, they were called the Sweat Hogs, that group of cut-ups in Gabe Kaplan's and Mr. Cotter's class. And they had all sorts of insults, spicy little novel insults that they would throw back and forth. And they ended up on T-shirts because that was the mid-70s. That was the advent of the T-shirt with words printed on it. That was the whole thing, all those decals. So you would have T-shirts with pictures of the different characters and then things that they said. Up your nose with a rubber hose. Sit on it? I think sit on it was another favorite insult. Bill Bailey, won't you please come home? One thing I can say so far about Hildy, our wonderful puppy, is that she is very happy with her treats, which are simply the same food she gets. It's this kibble. It's just dry dog food. It's little bits, and they're grain free, and they have salmon, and she likes it enough that she's motivated the whole time. Although by the end, I feel like I was giving her a lot of treats, and by the end, when we were out at the car. So here's what we learned today. We learned the left hand turn, and the key is you got to signal. No, there's no signaling. Left hand turn. Then we learned reliable recall. This is a really good one. Reliable recall is the way Paul describes the skill of, no matter where or what the dog is doing, if the dog hears you say the dog's name and the command to come, then the dog will drop whatever it's doing, stop, end whatever conversation it's having, put down the ingredients to whatever birthday cake it's baking. The dog will just stop, will pull the car over, park, and will run to you. The dog will just run to you. Reliable recall. And so we practice it at at different distances, and then the ultimate test is go all the way around the corner where you're out of sight. Um, so she's a champ. Hildy is doing well with all that. And then finally, this is something we learned that I recommend also for the people in your life. But this is something I thought 2 days ago, and I mentioned it to Kirsten that we should teach her to do this anyway. In fact, a friend of mine who had a wonderful dog named Uncle Ralph um, once told us we should teach this to Loki many years ago, which is that when you're at a door, that you should always go through the door before the dog. So Paul was describing this as the open door sit. So the open door sit is this: you're with your dog, but before you go through a door, what you should do is, this is the skill: you make the dog sit, and then you open the door. This is the open door sit. The dog has to sit in front of the door. Then you open the door, and the dog can't get up to go through the door. The dog has to sit while you open the door a little bit, and open the door halfway, and open the door all the way. The dog has to just sit there until you give the command, okay, and now the dog can go in. Or you could just walk, and then the dog could follow you. So that was it. And she got that quite quickly also. Although we have sliding doors here, so that might be a little trickier, or not. So, but we have to work on that skill because she's a big girl. So when she barrels through a door in front of you, it creates all kinds of drama, and she can knock the screen door off of its track. She can knock you over. So those were the 3 skills today. About 5 dogs in the class, including this one very challenging dog that came from a shelter. And this dog is probably the most challenging. And so it's just interesting to see the different speeds and styles of learning that the dogs have. Yes, thank you, Nuro. Yes, Hildy, yay, Hildy. What did the comedy writers say to you, Richard? Oh, okay, you guys are talking about a conversation you had with our beloved Feldo. I'm just seeing if I missed anything else. Oh, by the way, Guilford. You mentioned Guilford, Blue Lady. I have friends near there in Guilford. What's it called? Madison. That's what it's called. Madison, Connecticut. Nice part of the state. Nice part of our eastern seaboard. You never hear that phrase anymore. The eastern seaboard. Why is it a seaboard? I want to look that up. Seaboard. 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 What does the term seaboard mean? The line where the land and sea meet. Seaboard. A region bordering the seacoast. But it's spelled but it's not spelled like border. It's B-O-A-R-D. The seaboard. I don't know. That's weird. Seacoast. Seaboard is the seacoast. À bord. I think they say à bord de la mer in French. À bord de la mer. Near the sea. À bord de la mer. Yeah, the seaside. So maybe that's where it comes from. The seaboard comes from the French, or something like that. Sure it does. Are you going to the ocean? Sure I am. A little bit of wordplay, as long as no one gets hurt. Oh, I'm gonna make a little confession here today. This is crazy. It's important to read carefully. Reading carefully is important. And it's, I gotta say, I read, I was a little hasty yesterday. I think I mentioned I did many dozens of takes of my audition scene yesterday. And then today when I was looking at them, which I don't always do, but I was really curious. I wanted to look and say, wait, did I nail this? I submitted 3 takes. Did I nail it? Was this, because it's, it would be a fun role to get. And I was reading over the audition notice, and I noticed a key fact about the scene that I had overlooked before that actually would in some ways inform how my character was behaving. So I was kind of dejected looking at them in the morning and then seeing that, and I thought, Jesus, how did I miss that fact? They call that kind of like the circumstances of the scene, or the givens. I don't know, different techniques would call it different things, but it's just, even for a short scene, to get all the circumstances, and the circumstances, what happened a while ago, what happened right before the scene begins, what happens right after the scene takes place, all of those things, to give that fullness, that full feeling of what happens when we as humans behave in the world. We're always informed by all of these facts and all these things that are happening in 3 dimensions, things that are happening in our emotional lives, memories, thoughts, regrets, sudden ideas, all of that stuff. So to give these fictitious scenes that 3-dimensional real feeling, you got to try to take everything into account. So anyway, that was upsetting to realize I had. So anyway, what it was, I tried to take it constructively. So things can go badly in life, as we know. Things can sometimes, often, sometimes or often, they can, or rarely, if you're lucky, they can go in ways that we don't want them to go. Things can take a turn for the undesirable. The question is, what do we do with that event when things go badly? When things go the way we did not want them to go, and when that happens as a result of our own choices or as a result of our own shortcomings, what do we do at that moment? When we realize we've come up short, we've failed, we haven't done our best, what do we do at that point? Stay tuned. I will explain what to do at that point. But first, I'm going to answer McJet's question. McJet, that is the classic question that people ask performers. And the answer to that question is, you never know. The answer to that question is, that is not a known. There's no way to know. So that's never announced. That's never part of the deal. Yes, Dad, you got it right. What do we do with that moment? We learn from it. Exactly. You can take it. You can beat yourself up. Thank you for whoever said don't beat yourselves up, or don't beat ourselves up. That's correct. That's good. That's a good first step. And then the second one is Dad, you win a prize. We learn from it. So you can say to yourself, okay, you can trick yourself. In other words, you can trick yourself and say, this was not a failure. This was a lesson, a valuable lesson. And what can I take away from it? I can take away from it. I can recommit myself to slowing down. Slow down. Read the audition notice several times before you launch into looking at the lines. Spend some time just reading it over and over again. Read it slowly. Read it aloud. Read it to a friend. Write a song about it. Do an interpretive dance. Bake a cake about it. Do whatever you want. Just don't rush through it. Stop rushing. Where are you rushing? As my very good friend's grandmother used to say, don't run. There'll always be another bus. Never run for the bus. Don't run for the bus. There will be another bus. I don't know if that's relevant, but it's good advice. So anyway, that's what I am committing to. Reading more slowly when I'm looking at my audition notices. Take your time. Take your time. Won't you come home, Bill Bailey? Won't you come home? Movement Voter Project, please look them up. Couldn't hurt, could help. That's all I'll say about it. Movement Voter Project. We did some fundraisers for them, some fundraising Zooms for the Movement Voter Project in 2022, and I think also in 2020. And we had some heavy hitters among the comedians who performed with us. Most memorably, Roy Wood Jr., who was great. He sent in a pre-taped thing. So I contacted him again the other day to see if he would do the fundraising Zoom for MVP, Movement Voter Project, that the Reverend Barry Lynn and I are planning for September. And I haven't heard back. Have not heard back. And then I contacted my friend who is friendly with Sarah Silverman to see if she might do our MVP Zoom to raise funds. Haven't heard back. So it could be a number of things. And one of the things it could be is that people are a little bit on their heels at the moment because things are feeling kind of uncertain. The sands are shifting. And so people aren't exactly sure what they're doing fundraising wise. And in fact, as we probably all heard in the news, there's a big sack of dough, 90. Well, it's a 9 with 7 zeros after it. If there's a dollar sign and then a 9 and then 7 zeros after that, there's that sack of money that at the moment is being held back, pending, yada yada. So, and then I also saw a text or an Instagram post from MVP, Movement Voter Project. Just this evening, I saw something from them saying that they were now taking a stance in this moment of uncertainty, let's say. I'm talking around the issue. I just don't want to get into it explicitly. There's just there's enough explicit stuff happening. I can just euphemize and beat around the bush. I was just thinking that if you take someone out into the backyard and whoop them up against a privet hedge, that's a beating around the bush. More wordplay. Wah 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 da 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 da. Bob, good to see you. Bob, who is famous from the chat on Feldman's show. Oh, I didn't know there was a Roy Wood in the Electric Light Orchestra. No, this was Roy Wood Jr., the amazing comedian. And we also had Alonzo Bowden from Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, who's a great comedian. He was on as well. So we're working on it. And Barry is also working on John Fugelsang, who's a great political comedian and commentator. And he's also working on Lewis Black. I've got clips of my impressions on my YouTube channel. Oh, that's good to know. I didn't know you did impressions. That's great. Okay, Bob Carmody. Carmody. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. I should know that. Bob Carmody. Check out his YouTube channel, DJ Carmad. That's DJ Karmad YouTube channel at DJ Carmad. Check out his impressions. Da, 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 da. Oh, Mary asks a very good question. Mary, hello, Mary. Welcome back from the lake and the beach. Mary raises a very interesting point. She says, "Isn't tonight the anniversary? Oh, the eve of the no-show anniversary? It is. Tonight is the eve. Tomorrow night is the 1-year anniversary of the no-show. So 365 days. That is correct. Today is the 365th day or evening in a row that I have done this show. 1 full year in the books. So I probably should have done something in honor of that. But tomorrow night is the 1 year anniversary of the show. Bob, that's very cool that you do impersonations. Hey, Jay, nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. Thank you all for your eyes and your ears. Hi, Catherine Hepburn. See, it's not, I'm not an impressionist. I could do a passable Catherine Hepburn. We saw her live. Okay. The only impression I did on my stand-up special was Bernie, but I had a Yitzhak Rabin, which I did in my act. It's not on the album. That was a fun impression. Okay, I got an LOL nice on my Hepburn. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Oh, that wasn't right, but anyway. All right. Tonight is number 365. Impersonating being a human being. That's very good. I didn't do any songs tonight except for Bill Bailey. That's rare. I just talked and talked. All right. I'll be loving you always, with a love that's true always. When the things you've planned need a helping hand, I will understand always, always. Days may not be fair always. That's when I'll be there always. Not just for an hour, not just for a day, not just for a year, but always. Always, 1925, Irving Berlin. That's our outro. Thank you for tuning in to the nosho for Saturday evening, the 13th of July, 2024. And tomorrow night is the 1 year anniversary show. The show started on the first night of the SAG after strike, which was July 14th, 2023. And tomorrow night that's 1 year. McJet says she looked for Bob for your YouTube and doesn't see it. DJ Carmad. Maybe all is one word. Was that the difference? Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. There it is, at DJ Carmad. The correct spelling. Yes, tomorrow night, 7:14. 7:14 tomorrow night for the anniversary show. I'll do something in French and I'll do a union song. That's my plan. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you and good night.